Conservation Commission meeting of June 12th for, and we're on Walpole Media, for those who may be at home. And our first item, Town of Walpole, Commonwealth of Massachusetts Conservation Commission Land Disturbance Permit in accordance with Walpole Stormwater Management Bylaw is hereby given in the intent of West End Residences LLC to construct at 130 West Street and 25 Spring Street, Walpole, Mass. Map 33, Lot 398 and 399, a mixed-use commercial and residential building with paved parking area and associated appurtenances over 40,000 square feet of disturbance. Application and plans may be viewed at the Conservation Commission office or at www.walpole-ma.gov. Conservation Commission. Public hearing on the above matter be held in person on 3/13/24, beginning at 7 p.m. All interested persons request to be present. The hearing's been opened and continued, and representing the applicant.
Yes, I'm Stephen Cabral with Crossman Engineering.
Okay, and I have a letter from the town engineer that I read into the record. And for those who, if anybody has any comments they'd like to make, please go up and sit at the table and use the microphones. We are on the Walpole Public TV. This is the letter from town engineer dated June 11th. I don't know if you've seen this.
Oh, yes, and we do agree with his comments.
A 24-sheet plan. Okay, this is Karbolov's comment of the material he has received. He's got the plans, report dated drainage narrative and assessment, another report for stormwater pollution prevention plan, and a letter from Chris Cabral, P.E., Crossman Engineering, dated May 22nd, 2024, providing responses to the engineer's letter of March 13th. I have reviewed the responses and resubmitted additional information and agree with the responses provided Mr. Chris Cabral. The drainage design has been expanded and hydraulic calculations are provided using Rawls infiltration rate and infiltration rate derived from falling head testing during the first review. I am satisfied with this approach and note that this is a significant reduction when compared to the existing site. I recommend the following minor plan revisions which are meant to reinforce the drainage design. On sheet C1, general notes and legend, all test pit data logs should be shown from each testing session, February 15, 2021, October 2021, September 1, 23, and 2/15/21, may be noted as not witnessed by town staff. Sheet C4, existing condition, show all test pits. Sheet C7.1 and 7.2, grading and drainage, show additional test pits if close to proposed drainage. Special condition recommendation, no foundation drain and/or sump pump connection allowed to municipal drain or to the public way. Okay, and you have seen this, so you have that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. This is,
All old stuff.
this is old
The
stuff.
only new stuff
Okay,
is from the
okay.
town.
So, proceed.
Yes, okay. So seeing this is the second hearing, I won't go back to the beginning, but I will give a very brief overview of the project, just as a reminder. Basically, on the cover sheet, on the screen, and also to my left is an enlargement. At the intersection of Spring Street and West Street, currently there are two commercial buildings in a parking area that we're proposing to demolish. And in its place, we're proposing to build a 5-story building. On the first floor is going to be parking. Most of that parking will be below the building. The second level will be retail. There'll potentially 8 individual retail units for a total of about 25,000 square feet of retail space. And then the upper 3 stories will be apartments. In regards to the apartments, we're proposing to have 95 units. 9 of them will be studios, 62 will be one-bedroom, and 24 will be two-bedroom units, for a grand total of 119 bedrooms. But as I said, 95 units all total. If you're interested, I have additional architectural renderings that I'll be glad to show. Unless you're in a rush, I'll go straight to the engineering part.
What you're suggesting is more details of what the units are gonna look like?
No, just the different facades, in case y'all were interested. I can be quick. Okay.
Yeah, just make it quick, if it pertains to conservation
Okay,
issues.
then I'm just going to move on.
Okay.
Oh, if we could go to sheet C3 of the plan set. Okay, sheet C3 of the plan set represents an aerial view of the existing conditions on the left side. As you can see, there are 2 buildings. And on the right side is the proposed building and parking area superimposed on top of the aerial photograph. Now, from an engineering perspective, this has been a relatively straightforward site to work with. And the reason I say that is there are no wetlands in the area, there are no flood zones in the area, and we performed approximately 16 soil evaluations throughout the site. And in all cases, we found nothing but good gravelly soil, some sand, and the water table varied from 10 to 15 feet deep. So when it comes to development, it's really the perfect site to design an underground infiltration system. The other issue I'd like to point out is even though it's a substantial development project, under current conditions, there's approximately 0.9 acres of impervious surfaces, including the building and the parking areas. Under future conditions, that 0.9 acres is going to increase to 1.43 acres of impervious. So the net project impact in regards to the increase in impervious surfaces is only in the order of magnitude of half an acre. So the overall impact of development is relatively minor. And it also gives us an opportunity to improve the environmental and stormwater characteristics of the area. Currently, the 0.9 acres of impervious has no treatment whatsoever. So all of the runoff just rushes off of the street and ultimately gets to the West Street drainage system. Under current conditions, we're capturing all runoff from the future impervious surfaces, and we're going to provide water quality treatment, we're going to provide recharge, we're going to mitigate peak flows below existing, and we're going to substantially decrease the runoff volumes that leave the site under current conditions. And I'll just hit on some of the numbers. In regards to peak flow, we've analyzed the drainage system for all rainfall events, including the 1-inch rainfall, the 1 year, the 2 year, 10 year, 25, and the 100-year frequency rainfall event. So this analysis includes rainstorms that range from a 1-inch up to an 8.34-inch rainfall event. The total peak flow reduction over existing conditions varies from a 60% reduction up to an 81% reduction over peak flow that leaves the site today. In regards to a runoff volume reduction, we're reducing the runoff volume by between 74% and up to 85.5% reduction over current conditions. And if it may be best if we go to sheet C1. Yeah, C1 is the beginning of the drainage design. I'm sorry, C7.1. C7. C7.1.
C7.1, got it, okay. 7.1.
Yeah, so this is a plan view of the lower level. The way the topography of the site's situated, it allows a first floor parking to enter from Spring Street, which is the road on the right. Vertically it runs from bottom to top. And the access from West Street is approximately 18 feet higher. So the access to the upper parking lot, which I'll discuss on the next sheet, is going to be in the upper left corner. So on this sheet, it shows the lower level grading and drainage system. So the cars enter from West Street, where you see a small rectangular box, and as they enter, they're able to park beneath the building, which is shaded tan. So cars can park adjacent to West Street below the building, adjacent to Spring Street below the building, and they can also continue beneath that darkened area. And that darkened area represents the fact that there's a second-story parking garage above it. So there'll actually be full parking below that shaded area. And all of the runoff that lands in that white area in the middle, that white area in the middle is the lower level parking area that's open to the sky. So all runoff that lands in that area is going to go through a storm scepter to remove the coarse solids and remove up to 75% of the total suspended solids. And then it'll be piped into the two blue rectangles, which represent the underground infiltration system. And the way the project was sized, the way the system was sized is that up to the 100-year storm event, there's no runoff that's going to exit that area. So all of the runoff that goes into those infiltration units will go into the subsoil. There'll be no discharge towards Spring Street. Now, if we go to the next page, C7.2. Now, I will say that 7.2, C7.2. The
We
next
go
sheet.
straight to C8. Unless it's, just, oh, here it is.
What may have been
So it got
folded.
tucked in here, here it goes. It's our first.
That was probably one I was reviewing.
Oh,
I pulled
okay,
it out,
okay,
sorry.
got it.
Yeah, C7.2 represents the grading and drainage for the upper level parking area. And again, the building is shaded in gray, and then the upper level parking area is limited to an L-shaped portion of the left side of the plan. So to access the parking garage, you come in from West Street, which is the upper left corner, and then vehicles can drive straight in. And just to the left and to the bottom of the parking area, we have an elongated underground infiltration system, which is highlighted in blue again. Now, that system was sized so that up to the 25-year storm event, all of the runoff is going to be captured and infiltrated. It's only in a situation where the 25-year storm event, and just as a reminder, a 25-year storm event is when we receive 6.5 inches of rain in a 24-hour period, is all going to be contained on site. It's only the larger storms when there'll be any type of overflow towards Spring Street. Now, the reason we did that, over the past month, we've worked with the town engineer and the conservation agent, and their suggestion was to maximize recharge as much as possible. And the developer is willing to work with the town and allowed us to expand both the lower infiltration system and the upper infiltration system so that we can retain such a substantial volume. Another item we've added to the plan after, again, working with the town. How about if we go to sheet C 9.1? 9.1, which the soil erosion control phasing plan. When we first submitted the application, we had one typical soil erosion control plan, which is intended to represent how the contractor was going to control erosion while the site was disturbed. Now, recognizing the town's concern to make sure that the contractor has nice, orderly instructions, we've expanded the one sheet, and now we provide 3 sheets to represent the 3 different phases. So sheet 9.1 represents the phase when they're going to demolish the existing buildings and begin removing the existing pavement. Now, if we go to the next sheet, 9.2, 9.2 represents the second phase, which is when they begin excavating in order to create that lower level parking area. So you can see that what appears to be like darker lines, that just represents, if we look closer, you'd see that those are the contour lines So that's going to be the Phase 2 area that's excavated. And then if we go to the next sheet, 9.3, it represents the third phase of the soil erosion control process, where now the contractor will be working on the lower side of the site and to begin excavating the gravel there to allow for that first level parking garage. Now, one thing I'd like to point out is that before we designed any aspect of the project, as I mentioned, we had 16 soil tests throughout the site, and we documented the groundwater levels. We mapped out the topography or the actual elevations of the groundwater throughout the site, and then we worked with the architect and set the elevations of the lower parking level so that it was guaranteed to be higher than the seasonal high water table elevation. And that's how we determined how deep we were allowed to excavate without getting into the water table. So based on all the data, the site can be constructed without actually dewatering or pumping from the groundwater. So that's the quick highlights. And the main points are we've expanded the soil erosion control plans. We've agreed with the conservation agent and the town engineer's suggestions, and we believe that we've incorporated them all. And we did receive the letter, and it's my understanding those letters just recommended that we identify some additional of soil tests that we previously performed and just identify them on the plan, which we could easily do. But none of the comments have any impact on the design itself. So we'd like to thank you all for putting up with us and thank the town staff for working with us.
Okay, thank you. Landis?
Yeah, it's great. You went in and tweaked the plan and took a lot of Carl's suggestions and mine, and looks really good. My main comment is just with the erosion control plans, which I like what you've done, but the comment in the plans, the infiltration comments, put it down and see, I look for the plan that it was in. It says that the infiltration areas will be marked off prior to construction. And I noticed it was also in another plan of yours, so it must be a kind of just a boilerplate comment that you're putting in. But if you mark off the areas where the infiltration is going, then some of these, like on C, and I did send you these comments, I don't know if you saw it, but.
Oh, yes, they came today. Yeah, basically,
Yeah.
they would be marked out after the soil erosion activity, because on those sheets, 9.1, 9.2, 9.3 is the phase when they're bringing the grades down. So once they bring the grades down to the proposed conditions, then we would mark those out in the field so that the contractors know that we don't want them to stockpile material on top of the infiltration units.
Thank you.
So at what point do you mark them off? Because this is prior to construction, so.
Yes, we would mark them off after they bring the elevations down to grade,
Okay.
because at that point, well, today the elevations are so high that the weight of the soil is certainly much more than any stockpile. So we're really concerned with protecting the infiltration areas after they bring the grades down. Like in some areas, they're going to be bringing the grades down by up to, say, 8 feet, 8 to 10 feet.
Okay, so on C9-3,
Yes, by the time they get to phase 3 is when everything has to be staked out.
okay,
Because
then I would suggest you put that on the erosion control plan, just so
Okay.
it's clear.
We will.
Because, yeah, like on C9-2, you have the washout area and the construction, I can't read it from here, but I think I had it in my notes, construction area and kind of in those areas, so if that,
Yes, In that case, it's in an area prior to them
Prior to-
excavating.
Okay, all right. But the top part has been,
Yes, so once they finish the phase, once they finish this sheet, 9.2, is when if there's any infiltration component within that area that's been excavated,
Yeah.
it should be staked.
okay.
So I agree, we could add a note to clarify that.
You could just add a note to your erosion control plans, then that would
Yep.
be helpful and it
Okay.
would be clear. And then in your, I thought we talked about this before, so the snow storage plan, I think it's the last plan.
Yes, I believe it's towards the very end. The majority of snow really has to be removed from the site because we have limited space.
Then I suggest you put that on the plan, because you have it in your stormwater management systems.
Yes.
Which DEP has guidelines on not doing, as well as commission generally doesn't allow. I think I was recommending maybe a condition that would say within 24 hours that the
Okay.
snow
Oh,
is removed.
and actually, you see there's a note on the lower left. If you zoomed into that, it says, due to limited snow storage on site, off-site snow hauling will be necessary.
What's this say?
Oh, it says, due to limited snow storage on site, or, let's see, my eyesight's not good.
Mine are.
Or off-site snow hauling will be necessary.
Right, so
But we can
I'm
make
gonna
that
suggest
bolder.
that they give a limit, because if they're pushing all the snow on the infiltration swale and pads, and then it rains really hard, you're gonna have a problem. It needs to be removed within 24 hours, at least. Dumping it on the shrubs and trees too, then.
Yes. We could even agree not to push the snow into that area. That would be even better.
Yeah, and
Because
then they
actually-
got it on the ballast for the transformer too, and I don't know if you really want to plow dumping snow on the ballast for the
No.
transformer either.
No, this was really intended when there's like a half an inch of snow and they just have to push it off to the side. It wasn't meant for a 6-inch snowstorm.
Okay, well, it's gonna be the plan of record for snow storage, so
Yes. So we'll,
I want to just make it clear.
so we can agree that there'd be no snow storage in that area where there's a sediment forebay or the infiltration area.
This is parking for the railroad. It's the street, Spring Street.
Yeah, and then my other comments, just obviously to address the town engineer's comments, which I don't think was that much. Other than that, I just have some suggestions for conditions, but that's it.
Okay. Bailey?
No questions.
Doug?
I saw on, I lost track, but one of these sheets showed construction vehicle refueling area.
It is on the.
C 9.1,
Okay.
construction
C9.
vehicle refueling and maintenance area.
Yeah, that's a typical requirement, because as you know, because anytime you disturb more than an acre, you have to file a NIPD's permit with EPA, and they have certain standards that we're supposed to identify where vehicles can be refueled. So it's really meant for like small tool equipment. It's not meant for refueling a truck.
So I was wondering if there's provisions made to protect against spillage of fuel.
Yes, those areas are supposed to, intended to be lined, and when we file with EPA, all that has to be mapped out, because they have a standard template to follow.
Okay.
And again, it's not for large vehicles, it's just equipment.
And then when I advance to page C 9.3, the vehicle fueling and maintenance area is gone.
9.3, yes, it was slid to the upper side.
Oh, okay, I see it.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Get off the,
That's it.
video?
I'm going to steal Al's question here about On C3, there's a thick gray line,
On C3,
3. It goes along Spring Street, and we're wondering what that is.
We're actually rebuilding the town sidewalk.
Oh.
And so it's
Sidewalk.
just the shading,
Okay, all right.
yeah. And actually, we've also agreed to extend the sidewalk up Spring Street all along the MBTA parking lot.
All right. Yeah, I had nothing else right now.
Al?
Now, is there going to be a fence between the Spring Street sidewalk and the railroad parking lot? Or is you can walk across?
It-
What's-
Well, currently on Spring Street, the parking lot that the town asked us to rebuild, of course, is on the other side of the street. And the reason Carl requested that we rebuild it is it's bituminous, and it's really not in good shape whatsoever. From the sidewalk, there's a slope up to the parking lot. And I do not believe the town has a fence today. And so the intent was to address Carl's concern that we rebuild the sidewalk. He didn't mention rebuilding or replacing a fence.
Okay,
So at this time, we're just replacing the sidewalk with concrete.
okay. Now, you mentioned that the stormwater will be treated. How are you planning to treat it?
Okay, well, there's a combination. The terms that the state uses would be, we have a treatment train. The first part of the train would be deep sump catch basins that help collect the larger particles. Then in the lower parking lot, runoff from those deep sump catch basins goes through a storm scepter, which is a precast concrete structure which has a swirl chamber on the inside. And that swirling mechanism increases the suspended solids removal. So by the,
I understand the storm scepter systems,
yeah,
but the first group of catch basins, you say it's a deep sump. Well, what else do you have in there? Do you have a hood to keep
oh,
oil
yes.
from?
All of the catch basins have the deep sump catch basins in the hood. And the storm scepter themselves also have a baffle, so any
Okay,
floatables.
okay. I just want to make sure that the drips from all these cars, that's going to be a lot of cars,
Oh, yes. And one,
collected into something and not just infiltrated into the ground, which doesn't help us any.
yes, but one thing I'd like to point out is project-wide, we have, let me double check. We have 190 parking spaces. 120 of those spaces are in the lower level. And all but, I believe, 11 of the lower level parking spaces are beneath the building or beneath the upper parking deck. None of those areas drain into the drainage system or the infiltration systems. All of those parking areas below the building and the upper deck actually tie into the sanitary sewer system. So that in itself is a significant benefit.
I don't like the idea of oil and the stuff that comes off cars in the wintertime is going to go into the sanitary system, but.
Okay. But even
If you
that,
have a,
there's a sand oil separator that's part of that connection
okay,
system.
Okay, that's what I want to get at. So you'll have the device there that collects it and.
Oh, yes, the state building,
will
yeah, the
take
state
it
building
away.
code. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, the state building code requires that we have that sand oil separator
Okay,
in
so.
line in the sewer.
So now, the remaining issue is, okay, you have these devices that are doing their thing, and most of them work fairly well today, an improvement over 20 years ago. And who and on what kind of a schedule are they going to be serviced to get the oil and the bad stuff that's collected and take it away.
Yeah, part,
Plan for that,
part of our package included an operations and maintenance manual.
okay?
And in that package, it identifies the frequency and the schedule and the detailed listing of everything that has to be inspected regularly. And so it's essentially almost any time there's a rainstorm more than an inch, it has to be thoroughly inspected. And then the maintenance will be based upon the results of the inspections.
Okay, that's what I want to hear, because it doesn't do any good to collect it if somebody isn't gonna take it out of there and dispose of it properly. Okay.
Yes, we agree.
That's all my questions, Jack.
Okay. Betsy?
No, no questions.
Okay, anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Please identify yourself for the record and come up to the microphone. And, okay, Landis, you had,
Sorry, I just have one more thing I forgot to mention. So when you were talking about that you didn't believe that you had to de-water, you were going to be above the groundwater, and the groundwater wasn't going to be an issue when you were excavating. There was, and I can't remember which plan it was on, a dewatering sump. So is that
We-
just for
we-
surface water if it rains, or just in case?
The reason we included that is
Plan that's on?
it's on 9.1, 9.2, 9.3. The reason we identify that is after a rainstorm, if there's a
Okay.
puddle,
Okay.
we didn't want to have them working in mud, so we have them pumping into that
Okay.
sediment
And
basin.
that's into the temporary sediment basin that you
Yes.
have at the corner of West and Spring.
Yes.
So you don't anticipate going into the groundwater at all? Because I know some of the residents were concerned from Swan Pond about the hydrology with the ponds that are there and
Yeah.
the excavation.
Right, we're not excavating into the water table, no.
okay? Again, anybody in the audience, please identify yourself for the record. Hearing none, someone make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. 600. Some recommended conditions.
Yep, so Carl, the town engineer, wanted no foundation drains or sump pump connections allowed to the municipal drain or to the public way as a condition. Landscape areas shall remain landscaped with the designated trees and shrubs as specified on the landscape plan of species died. Growing season, operation and maintenance plan. Is there going to be an office, like a management office on site? for the residents?
They do have space, I don't know if it will be manned.
I guess, as far as the operation and maintenance plan, and Al, who also brought it up, if you don't maintain it, it's not gonna be good.
Oh,
So I was suggesting a condition that the operation and maintenance plan be posted on site, including a plan with location of the stormwater structures.
There is space where that could be posted.
All right, great, that would be great. Then the next recommended condition was kind of based on me seeing that sump, groundwater sump. I want to make sure, I mean, not groundwater, but dewatering
Yep.
pump. That the dewatering drain shall not cause significant drawdown of the groundwater. And I wanted to sort of, you know, we don't want any effects to the hydrology next door. So if it is observed that dewatering is affecting the ponds of Swan Pond, then the commission should be notified. Is a condition like that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Then snow shall not be stored on any portion of the surface stormwater management structures, forebay, swale, or paved waterways for longer than 24 hours, at which time snow shall be removed, and that was what we talked about earlier. And then I guess just adding the marking off of the underground infiltration areas on your east erosion control plan. So the underground infiltration unit shall be as-built and certified by a professional registered engineer that the system is constructed according to the plan. The as-built and certification shall be submitted to the town engineer for review and approved by the Conservation Commission prior to discharge. So we want to know that it's all
That's good,
right
yes.
before you go, not at the end when you're doing the as-built for the certificate of compliance. We want
Yes,
to know before
that
you
is the
discharge.
best.
Underground infiltration unit cleanouts, so the cleanout ports shall be visible at grade and labeled as cleanout ports or similar.
Yep.
We've had a little problem with that sometimes. That's it. The 9-1 doesn't belong to this project. It's stuck in there by accident. That's all I have.
Okay, anybody have anything else? So someone make a motion to make that as the order?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
600.
All right,
Okay.
thank you all.
Thank you.
So let me start my. Right, so you voted on that, right?
Yes.
Yep.
We have,
Yes, you did. Streets. What was the vote? Was it Betsy and Al, or?
Is this
what was that?
Who
2216?
voted? Was it Betsy and Al, or?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, Al, then Betsy.
Only one piece of paper to sign?
Oh, wait a minute. Yep, only one piece of paper this one.
And then what's the next one? What do we got next?
Boston-Providence is next?
Boston-Providence.
Yep, that's,
Hilltop. Okay, I found one giant plan. Is there?
I have a plan here.
Oh, Al's got one, so you just need maybe one more.
Douglas?
Well, what is this one here?
no, it would be all folded up together.
Okay, yeah, okay, fold it up. and-
There's something over here.
Yeah, there's another one here.
Oh, okay, wait a second, okay, let's,
Okay, can you pass that down to Doug and Yeah. Haley? and-
here, you
Okay,
guys can
good.
have that.
Okay, I'm looking for the ad. Do you have the ad by any chance?
It's on in there. It mustn't have been printed.
Have it on yours?
Here's a map here.
Try, right?
You got it?
Small and it's on my phone. In accordance, Conservation Commission, Stormwater Bylaw, Land Disturbance Permit, in accordance with the Walpole Stormwater Management Bylaw, is hereby given of the intent of GW Hilltop LLC to construct at 2216 Boston-Providence Turnpike, Route 1, Walpole, map 53, lot 31, a 28,585 square foot car barn associated with over 40,000 square feet of disturbance. The application and plans may be viewed at the Conservation Commission office or at the walpole.ma.gov Conservation Commission website. The public hearing on the above matter will be held in person on June 12th, 2024, beginning at 7:10. All interested parties are requested to be present. Contact Conservation Commission or L. Hershey at walpolemass.gov with questions. John Wiley, Chair.
I don't have anything here from, is there any engineers' comments?
No, the town engineer was not able to get to the plan yet because we've both been swamped. Apologize, but
Okay,
I think there's a couple things he wants to maybe talk about.
Totally understandable.
okay. Representing the applicant?
Chris Cabral from Crossman Engineering.
Go ahead.
Okay. The property is located at map 53, parcel 31. It's identified as 2216 Boston-Providence Turnpike, AKA Route 1. The site today is essentially a maintained lawn area with access to the site only available via Route 1. To the north of the site is Hilltop Ave, but there's actually a private property that abuts the site in Hilltop, so our only means of access and egress is through Route 1 northbound. Actually, Landis, would you mind scrolling to sheet C4? Thank you. I'm sorry, C5. So we are proposing approximately a 28,000 square foot slab facility. It's no basement, it'll be on slab. It'll primarily be a storage bay facility for storing luxury vehicles. There'll also be a general office area and some light detailing bays for hands cleaning and waxing cars. The circulation around the site's been prepared in a way in coordination with the fire department where we have two-lane access on the north and east sides of the building, but then there'll be one-way circulation around to the southeast, around to the west, and to return back towards the entrance by Route 1. We are providing, based on the building square footage and the proposed use, we are providing the minimum number of parking spaces required by zoning. So by providing the minimum parking space required by zoning and the unique one-way circulation around the rear of the building, we've done our best to really reduce the amount of impervious we're proposing on site in order to acquire or accomplish the project goals. Along the northeast of the site, abutting Hilltop Ave, due to the cutting that'll be needed to create a level building envelope, we'll have to put in a retaining wall that varies in height. So we'll be doing some cutting, maybe about 6 to 7 feet in the area, so we'll have to frame up a wall along the rear of the property line. But behind the wall, we'll be proposing vegetation and screening, so it won't just be an unprotected drop-off. Along the southeast of the site, we'll also be adding in some landscaping in between the southeasterly abutter, and between the southeasterly abutter and the building, we'll actually be installing a swale. At the southeast of the corner, kind of behind the dumpster, is an existing drainage easement that picks up all the flow from Hilltop and a bunch of abutting properties to the northeast. There's a drainage system on Hilltop which has a 30-inch outfall pipe which dumps water onto the property today. And at the southwest corner of the property where that big kind of triangle area is, we've included a stormwater infiltration pond where we've accounted for all the impervious area that we're proposing with our development, in addition to everything upstream and off-site. And in our analysis, we're able to demonstrate that we're able to infiltrate up to the 100-year storm event without any discharge leaving our property. That's a pretty good plan of it right there. For utilities, we have access to water, gas, and electric off Route 1, but unfortunately, we do not have permission to tie into the private sewer that's on Hilltop. I believe that's owned and operated by the Preserve Business Park, and I don't believe they're allowing connection from our project into their private sewer system. So we are managing our sanitary flowage with a small septic system, right where you're hovering over with your mouse right there. And across from that is where there's actually the existing billboard is. It's a pretty good monument when you're driving by the site to identify where exactly we are in the world of Route 1 in Walpole. Would you mind going to sheet C8? So sheet C8 depicts our soil erosion and sediment controls. We are proposing a compost filter sock around the perimeter of the site. I don't believe we show it along the upper limits, along the lower level, or the lower view and plan view, which is the southeast, and along the northeast, which is the right side of the plan. Everything is uphill, coming down into the site. So we currently do not show erosion controls around that limit of the site, but everything else that is downstream and adjacent to our site, we are proposing erosion controls with a construction entrance off Route 1 northbound. And then similarly to the West End project, you saw the same construction fueling areas, washdown areas, soil stockpile areas. Now, uniquely, the majority of runoff that drains, or that's generated on site and collected upstream off-site that comes to the site, drains into the center of the site. It essentially acts as a big grass depression today, and virtually no runoff leaves the site under existing conditions, which is why we're proposing such a large infiltration ponds to capture everything that we're going to be generating with our proposed impervious areas. So in order to create a sediment trap to collect all that runoff generated on site when the site is more prone to sedimentation from the ground disturbances, we are proposing utilizing the footprint of the infiltration basin as a sediment trap. And that area will be collecting the majority of sediment and erosion issues generated from the active work zone. But prior to the final construction and grading of the infiltration basin, we are requiring the contractor to excavate down to a depth to remove all the sediment from the basin area. So come post-development time, the floor of the infiltration basin will be restored to its natural soil condition, and it won't prohibit the infiltrative capabilities of the pond. And I think lastly, maybe the landscaping plan, which could be the second to last page on the, if you don't mind. Sheet L1. L1, yes.
Here's L2, here's L2, wait a second, L1.
So this plan here kind of gives you a good feel of how the site will look post-development in terms of where we're proposing trees, shrubs, ground covers, where we're proposing screening, predominantly along the northeast of the site that abuts Hilltop, and along the southeast property line where it is the existing residential use. But immediately adjacent to the site is a large parking area, so there won't be any residential units that are going to be overlooking our site that will really need significant screening for. But we've done our best to provide a very aesthetically pleasing landscape for the site. I feel like this property's been long overdue for development. It's been just a poorly, infrequently maintained lawn area that is ready for a project like this to come in. And I think that's all I have to kind of cover the bases. I know we don't have any engineer review comments yet back from Carl, but hopefully you all have some comments that I could address tonight.
Okay. Landis?
I'm just gonna go back up to. So I guess one of the comments is, I for this plan, I didn't see any snow storage areas.
I think the very last sheet in the set is our fire truck and snow storage plan.
Is it on there?
I think it's the very bottom one in the PDF, the very final page. I think on that plan, we also referenced in on the landscaping too, so there isn't any snow storage in locations where we're proposing things.
FS1.
Yeah,
Fire truck
FS1.
and snow- FS1.
Oh, there it is.
Okay.
No storage.
Okay, so, again, the snow storage shouldn't be on any of the structures.
Yes, right now, we've limited it to just to the slope, just the beginning of the slope, where the swale is, in between the southeasterly property line at the bottom and the site. The limit of the red hatch was like, or the red line arc was trimmed right at the slope. So there'll probably be a little bit of snow shoving over on a smaller magnitude storm, but they certainly should not push large magnitude storm events up along the left side of that roadway as they're going along the rear of the building.
So I think that needs to be cleared, because
Yeah.
if they just, someone looks at this and, oh, that's where we store the snow, and they don't think about different
Right.
events.
Right.
then that's where they're gonna push it. And for the wall that you have, over on this side, I didn't see a detail.
Usually we don't prepare, I mean, I could prepare like a profile that shows the elevations of it, but structurally we just,
You have to have a structural engineer.
yeah, come building time, that'll have to be something coordinated with the building department, but at this time, we don't have a typical detail.
Yeah,
We
if you could have, just a profile with what you, what we want, what the commission wants to avoid is if it's like an Allen block wall, and then they decide it's gonna be a rock wall.
Oh,
We wanna know what type of wall it's gonna be, and if it's gonna change, then you should,
okay,
Come
yeah, we
back
can, we
with the
can, we can
specs.
absolutely specify the type of wall and put together that sort of information.
because we've had that happen, and it's been an issue. Okay. Yeah, and it's more a suggestion that the landscape planting should be drought resistant, low maintenance, and native plantings. All detail. Yeah, I think one of the questions of the town engineering, me as well, because this site is definitely, there was another project proposed here, and,
Hopefully, we can do this in 5 minutes.
also, I don't know how to stop this.
5 minutes, 5
Restart
minutes.
5 minutes or now, so, way the day's been going, but, so, I've been here for 23 years, and I always thought it was a basin. I thought it was a stormwater basin. I've seen it almost, lots of water in there in the past, so, and I know Carl knows it as well as, and you know that as well, and that the past person that wanted to develop this, they also had addressed it, so I think we both just want to make sure that it's addressed completely. And I think you mentioned in the corner, there's a 30-inch outflow.
Yes,
That's
yes, at the bottom right
directed.
corner, yes. So we're picking up all that. The soils out there were really well suited for
I
infiltration.
think I was a little hard on the plan. I think you had the existing receded, and I couldn't exactly tell how it was gonna get to your swale.
Well, so at the bottom right, it's tough to tell now, maybe I can pull this up. But at the very bottom right corner is gonna be the creation of the divine swale that'll
Down
bring.
here.
Yeah, exactly, and it's gonna bring all the water from the 30-inch outfall in a left direction or southwesterly direction.
So it'll
to the pond.
discharge to this corner and then make its way to the swale?
Yes, exactly.
Well, have you got a sheet we can be looking at?
Old one.
Yeah, well, yeah. Is there a better sheet they should look at?
C6 has the proposed grading, that will swell a little bit more.
You want to describe what's going on here now? While we're looking at
Yes.
this?
So over at the northeast corner of the site is where the existing 30-inch outfall pipe is, and right where the limit, or where the beginning of like all this grading is showing, that is the location of where the end of that outfall pipe is. right over here. And then we're proposing a 2-foot wide with 2-to-1 side slope swale that will just carry all that flow all the way to the ponds. And in our stormwater analysis, we included calculations to demonstrate that the proposed swale, based on its dimensions, its bottom width, its side slope, its depth, has adequate capacity to convey the flows coming from that 30-inch pipe. There's a pretty significant area that drains to it, and unfortunately, we were able to demonstrate that our ponds can infiltrate the entire thing, or the entire area up to the 100-year storm, with zero discharge draining towards the abutter to the southwest.
Anything else in Lynn?
Right, and the others just suggested conditions regarding the as-built plan, and I think we should wait for the town engineer's comments,
That's fair.
if you are acceptable to that.
Okay. Bailey?
Nothing right now, thank you.
Doug?
You may have already mentioned this, but on C6, you show a 1,000-gallon holding tank for the floor drains.
Yes.
And it's got no outlet.
So,
What happens to the water that flows into that?
so because we don't have access to the public sewer, and we have floor drains in the building, plumbing code requires us that we have essentially a tight tank. So any minimal water that enters the floor drains will go into the tight tank, and then it'll just have to be pumped routinely.
As a maintenance
Yeah, exactly.
operation?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, that's it.
Medio?
Are you doing any car maintenance, like oil changes and things like that? And
No, no.
fuel, any fuel storage on the site?
No.
That 30-inch pipe, where's that coming from?
So at the bottom right corner of the sheet right now is the intersection of Hilltop and Sunset Boulevards. It's a 4-way intersection. To the left is the entrance to the parking lot to the Preserve Park. Heading in a down or southeast direction brings you in further into the Preserve. I think that's what it's called, the Preserve.
Yeah.
And then to the right, or to the northeast, is Sunset, where there's access to a few single-family houses. And the entire watershed area goes several commercial properties northeast up Route 1 northbound, all the private single-family houses, and then pretty much along the back of the preserve development. We got the design plans for that, and so we were able to have like pretty good topography for reference what exactly is coming our way, rather than trying to work off like 10-foot LiDAR GIS topo that, you know, it's okay, but it's not great.
So that's just stormwater drainage from all that?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Okay. Well, and it was designed to go on this site
I guess so. I'm not sure what the thought process was back then, but
instead of,
But it was never official, because there's no easement.
there's a drainage easement
Just
there.
that small little square.
Yeah, there's no downstream conveyance from the site either, so it's pretty clear that everything that flows onto the site, the vast majority of it just is able to seep into the ground and infiltrate. I've walked along the downstream, the southwest corner of the property line here it's like an old fieldstone wall. There's clearly no runoff that leaves the site today. I think in our calcs, based on the storage volumes that we were able to come up with of the existing topo, I think it showed some runoff leaving the site once every 25 years, but virtually nothing. So we've tried to mimic that as best we could.
it just seems kind of strange that your site would have to deal with stormwater from other areas. Like, why is it dumped onto their site and not dealt with by the town in a?
It wasn't their site when it was,
No, this site, whoever owned it, why was it? Sorry?
I'm pretty sure they owned it. They sold it.
Preserve owned
They
it.
A&R'd it, and they
Preserve
sold it.
Preserve owned it, then he sold the preserve, and then.
If you
And
could
then
just
he had that
identify
land.
yourself for the record. You
George.
come up to the
The
microphone
microphone.
Sure.
and the official.
Okay. George Wetterow, I'm the owner of the car barn. Yeah.
You want to explain what you said before?
But yes, the previous to us purchasing that piece of land, the preserve was owned by the gentleman who owned that piece of land. He sold the preserve, and then he sold the empty parcel of land. So yeah, we spent a lot of time going back and forth on this water that's been going in there. So it was a big negotiation point for us when we bought the land. So we sat down with Carl like 2 or 3 times to crunch the numbers and figure out how we can not have an underground system That was
I recall like also.
very, very expensive.
Like
It
a
was.
larger building footprint at once.
Yeah,
too,
so we made the
initially.
building smaller. We took a lot of asphalt out to kind of mitigate how much water we had to control.
And some commissioners might remember a convenience store that was gonna be located there, and this whole issue that was discussed at that point.
Okay. Doesn't
I
ring a
think
bell.
we heard it was a gas station or something that was going to go there,
Yeah, seasonal.
and they couldn't get a nicotine license or something. I don't know what the whole story was. I don't know, but.
All right. Yeah, that's all I have.
Al?
I'm not clear on what you're using for erosion control.
What sheet was that again? It was
C8.
compost.
Often on a lot of projects, instead of specifically identifying if it is silt fence or compost filter stock, we'll identify the location of the erosion control and identify it as 12-inch compost filter stock, silt fence, or approved equal. So ideally, the contractor is going to install compost filter stock or silt fence. And if there's a preference that the commission has, then that's an easy text update for us to fix. Does the commission have a general preference, the SOC?
Compost.
Okay. I'll delete reference, or we could easily omit reference to the silt fence or approved equal then to remedy any sort of mishaps if the contractor wants to go rogue and install something that, isn't generally reliable.
The spec is usually compost sock and then a orange silt fence or construction fence, but usually when there's wetlands or some resource area that could possibly be
Gotcha.
driven into, but there's, I don't know, how do you feel, Al? Should he have just compost sock?
That's fine. I just didn't find anything that said what they were gonna do,
So if you look at the C8 at the bottom, they have
Yeah, I
specs.
saw that.
Okay.
But that doesn't say that's gonna be used there, so.
On the,
Yeah.
we only have our callouts at like the kind of corners of the site. Like at the southern corner here, there's some text that says 12-inch compost filter stock, silt fence are approved equal. And we try to identify the starting limit with the arrow, and then with the other arrow, we kind of point it off in the direction where they're supposed to chase it. Then similarly, at the northwest corner of the site, we call it out there too, and then also at the northern corner too, we try to identify the
Okay.
limits there.
I just want to make sure that when the site is cleared of vegetation and we have a storm that isn't going to end up on Route 1.
Oh, yeah. Fortunately, Route 1 is a lot higher than the site, although eventually, in the event there was to be some like 1,000-year storm event and water was to come cruising through the site, it would eventually go through several other private properties before reaching Route 1. So it wouldn't look like it was coming from us. But
Okay.
I'm just,
That's what I was looking at is, we're seeing all kinds of extreme weather situations all over the place.
yeah, mostly like microburst,
And I
quick, high
wanna make
intensity.
sure that, we're looking for the best protection we can get. That's all.
Anything else, Al?
No.
Okay, Betsy?
Yeah, I had a question about the history of the site. That got answered, because I was thinking, okay, this probably was owned by the preserve. Okay, so now here come my follow-up questions, because I don't know if I've seen this before. Sometimes if you have dense, buildings and impervious surface in one area, you say, okay, fine, here's your impervious in one area, okay, here's your pervious over here, so you're permitted. Or you say, okay, you're gonna have a lot of runoff here, don't worry, here's your drainage basin, it's kind of a shallow lawn. Or you say, here's your open space, if open space was in vogue in those days, and it probably wasn't. Can you then, years later, this is probably gonna be a rhetorical question, don't worry, but can you then, years later, sell your giant drainage basin for development? Or can you, years later, sell your pervious surface that was supposed to go with your impervious? Or years later, sell your open space that was supposed to go with your dense building area?
That's a
and
good
say-
lawyer question.
Well, okay, but I don't think I've ever seen it before. I mean, it's okay, so you got a pipe that's draining a huge, huge development onto an area that I think Landis said always kind of looked like a drainage basin, and lo and behold, it probably is a drainage.
Well, so the preserve development itself has its own stormwater management system that is to the southeast. So really nothing from the preserve drains to this pond. It really just picks up, all of Hilltop and Sunset and the houses that are on there. And the backside of a few commercial properties that are further north up Route 1.
Okay, so it's not the preserve's drainage system. I guess
Yes.
I want to have a question for Jack. Do you remember when the preserve was built? Were we doing like, oh, here's your pervious, here's your impervious, here's your open space, here's your dense? I mean, or is this just all a moot point? It just seems, I mean, it's like, okay, you have density here. We just saw a plan, the first hearing. Here's the place you can't build, and here's the place we are building, and then years later you go, oh, no, we're gonna sell the place you can't build too. And obviously, this is not gonna hold anything up, because you're right, it's a legal question, but when was this built? The preserve? And was this supposed to go with it in some way?
It was
It's
a
a
40B,
40B.
40B project, yeah.
All right,
I guess
that's
it's
okay.
been 20 years?
40B 20 years
Over
ago.
20 years,
Yeah,
because it was before me.
it was,
Yeah.
okay. So,
I told you it was a rhetorical question.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
okay, anyone in the audience have any questions or comments, please identify yourself for the record. Hearing none, I think we need to wait for the review from the town engineer and see what the comments may be. So, our next meeting is the 26th of June. Is that, what do you think, it's enough time for Carl to review this?
I don't know what the comments are.
They're not easy to speak for him, but I would think,
I think as you've indicated, you've already had conversations with him. It sounded like he just didn't have time to review the latest revisions that were submitted. So if everything's been done that he's suggested and it's on the plan, then I don't think it'll be a long conversation.
Yeah, could we have a placeholder to continue to the,
Yeah, I mean,
so
you
we can continue it then till June 26th. What have we got on?
We have a 7 o'clock and a 7:30 scheduled, and we have a discussion that I tentatively put in there for 7:45.
East Street, Warwick Road. You want to make it, that discussion, is that just with the commission, or do we have somebody coming in for that?
No, it's with Truax.
Who will be here for the 7:30
Yeah.
hearing? Why don't we make it at 7:20?
Okay?
All right, so someone make a motion to continue this to 7:20 on June 26th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
600. So 7:20, okay.
He also said to me today that he thought the address was wrong, so.
yeah, I saw that too. On the we went to the assessor's office to get the butters, and the assessor identified it as 2216. I'm not sure where the 2218 came from. He suggested it was 2218, but the assessor told us it's 2216, so.
216,
Could be a
which is
comment
what-
he has.
Which is what you have, so yeah, we'll take it up with Carl.
Oh,
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
oh, that's it, right?
Yeah, I think they continued the hearing to 7:20 on June 26th.
Perfect. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. We voted that, right? Yeah.
Yes, I think we did.
600.
Yes, we did. So,
32 Industrial Road.
It's right here. Don't bother,
don't?
I'll have to read that. They've requested a continuance. I have the
package
Pick
or
it up,
just this?
Jack, and I'll read it.
Just that?
I think that was it.
Okay.
Okay, we'll hold off on the, is there a little request, formal request?
Sorry.
Conservation Commission Wetlands Bylaw Notice of Intent, Stormwater Land Disturbance Permit in accordance with Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw, notice is hereby given of the intent of Jenstar to construct at 32 Industrial Road, Walpole, Mass, map 46, lot 1, a multi-use office and maintenance building with vehicle service bays greater than 40,000 square feet and within the 100-foot buffer zone of an isolated vegetative wetlands. The applicant and the plans may be viewed at the Conservation Commission office or at the walpole-ma.gov Conservation Commission website. The public hearing on the above matter will be held in person June 12th, 2024, beginning at 7:15. All interested persons are requested to be present. Contact Conservation Commission at 660-7253 or L. Hershey walpole-ma.gov with questions. John Wiley, Chairman. And they have requested a continuance. I apologize, I didn't print it out.
We've got 7:20.
They just requested a continuance. I asked them actually to send a letter, but I don't see the letters.
Okay, then why
That's
don't
why I
we,
didn't print it out.
why don't we make it our July 10th?
But yeah, that's why it was just,
Yeah.
it was a last minute, and they haven't done soil tests observed by the town engineer. They haven't sat down with Carl or me to kind of go over things, so I don't, it's not gonna be wrapped up on the
I don't see anything on for July 10th.
Not, right, nothing yet.
So why don't we continue this till July 10th at 7 PM? Make that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
600. That'll be continued July 10th at 7. Okay, so continue. All right. So we have Union Square. See anybody here for that?
Yeah.
Robert.
Okay. Next one is Burns.
Right.
I mean, Brooklyn.
What are we calling it today?
Brookline.
Okay. Public hearing, Town of Walpole Conservation Commission, Walpole Wetland Bylaw, Land Disturbance Permit. In accordance with Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Stormwater Management Bylaw, notice hereby given the intent of Wall Street Development Corp. to construct 15 single-family condominiums altering over 40,000 square feet of land and work within the 100-foot buffer of wetlands and 200-foot riverfront area located at 7 Brook Lane, Walpole, Mass., map 20, lot 115, 119, 120, and 137. Application and plans may be viewed at the Conservation Commission office or at walpole-ma.gov/Conservation Commission. Public hearing in the above matter will be held in person on March 27th, beginning at 7 PM. All interested persons request to be present. And if you have any questions, contact the office. And representing the applicant,
Rob Truax, GLM Engineering Consultants. Get the other ones ready.
Existing conditions.
Cleaning up.
you will, please.
Yeah, you're out.
Representing the applicant.
Yeah, I was waiting for her to settle
Yeah,
down.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Go ahead.
So since our last meeting, we,
Did you introduce yourself? I'm sorry.
well, I did, I'll do it again. Rob
Do it again,
Truax, Rob Truax, GLM Engineering Consultants. Thank you. So since the last meeting, since we were here, we made some revisions to the plan. We submitted that revised set. There were just some minor revisions that came out of the last meeting. If you recall, there was, I can just go through those real quick. We provided the retaining wall behind the corner of Unit 1.
What sheet are you looking at?
I'm on sheet C, supplemental C.
Towards the end.
It's the very last sheet in the set.
Supplement C.
Here we go.
Go ahead.
So we provided a retaining wall around the back corner as requested on Lot 1 to give a little level area behind that building. We made reference to the retaining walls, just directing people to where the detail is, which is on sheet 8. The wall is it's only about 2 feet in height at the highest point, and it's a interlocking block wall that's being proposed. We labeled the cleanouts on the plan sheets. We also made sure they were labeled on, the detail was on the detail sheets. That was for all the infiltration systems. I included Ecotex construction notes on this sheet, which are right up in this area here. And then we provided some additional erosion controls on the erosion control sheet, which would go, we were asked it, which we were gonna do anyway, the erosion controls would go in after the plantings went in and after the detention basin was constructed, which is now. It's the basin's constructed, and the majority of the plantings are in, and I believe that erosion control is being installed, am I correct? So we would put a temporary erosion control around the detention basin to protect it after it was built. On the top side, so nothing comes down into it.
Excuse me, please identify yourself and use the microphone, please.
Lou Petrosi for Wall Street Development Corp. So, I think, if I'm mistaken, the erosion control was set up to avoid having silt or runoff into the basin with the, I don't know if you folks have been out there, but the basin is fully constructed and grass is fully taken, so I don't think there's a need for, we've got it built so that there's no water that can encroach on the basin from either direction. So we'll put it in if you want, but to me, it's gonna disturb all of the grass that we've already planted and stuff there, so.
Yeah, we go on the top.
Everything is grass, it's completely grass, it's growing, you can mow it right now. So, I understand the concern, but also, the bottom of the basin is left to be finished when the drainage structures are all connected into the basin, which will happen you know, once the water and sewer are done, so probably in the next 30 to 60 days. I just don't see the need to put a silt fence or something on the top of the berm. I'd leave it up to the commission. You guys can go out there and look at it. It's fully grassed, fully vegetated. There's not likely to be any erosion at this point, but that's just my feeling.
We hear what you're saying, okay.
That's basically it, and I know that Landis had an opportunity to do a site walk with the DEP. I don't know what the results of that were, I wasn't present, but that was, I think, to look at the riverfront degraded area. I don't know who else was present.
I was.
Oh,
Bet-
nice.
Yeah, Betsy was, and Paul McManus was, and DEP was there.
So I think with that, we really, that's all we have to offer right now, and any questions the commission has,
Okay,
comments.
all right. Landis, you have any comments?
Yeah, this is such an unusual permitting process because it's, the construction is coming before the permitting, so it's a little hard to. So I just in my report, so one of the issues is the determination of the additional degraded riverfront area, which is in the Brook riverfront area of 1,235 square feet that the applicant is proposing as degraded riverfront area. And then additional alteration of non-degraded riverfront area in the Pickerel Brook side. I think it's probably, so this is different from the original plan that was submitted. So there's 150 square feet in this little bump out area. Above unit 10, I'm at sub B now, so right here. So I'm curious as to what that is. And then there's additional area here that is non-degraded riverfront area that is being proposed to be developed.
What sheet have you
sheet is-
got?
It's sub
Sheet.
B. Is that-
You're looking at B, right?
Yep, so if you go from C,
Yep.
then you just go over one page,
Yep.
you're in B.
Can you point to those again? I'm sorry. I was trying
So
to-
there's 150 feet in this, the little bump up above unit N.
Yeah,
Seems like it's just an odd,
Well, because that lot was kind of tight between the house, proposed house and the grading, I wanted to just square it off a little bit to give us a little bit of room on the back end of that, so that we'd have a little bit easier time grading.
getting
in the
around
back.
that corner.
Right,
Is that-
that was the reason for that. And then the other side, it was just to use that area to build a house that was comparable to the rest of the properties.
Okay, so I'm just going through the items that are different from the original filing. So that would be the proposed non-degraded riverfront area to be developed would be bumped up to 2,080. There's an increase in 740 square feet from the original plan. And then the proposed restored riverfront area would be 2,085 square feet with 1,235 in Chapel Brook and 850 in Pickerel Brook. So that's that issue that the commission has to decide on what they want to do with. Then the 25-foot no alteration planting area, we had, a good discussion about that last time. And just to coordinate the notes from McManus's report onto the plan, and I think you have everything.
I just took this whole letter and put it in.
No, you've completed already, except for the
Trees.
Trees,
Except for the size of the trees, we haven't
right.
really.
So I'm still recommended the 2.5 caliber trees based on that there were trees there to begin with. The site was clear cut. And now in addition, there was an area, riverfront area that was also clear cut. So wasn't just buffer zone, it was also riverfront area. So I think that the Trapple Brook wetlands needs to have shade reestablished quicker than the smaller trees. That's
You okay with that? You can.
That's why I was pushing for the 12 to 14-foot trees rather than the 10-foot trees. And then, so on the, and I know this is kind of old, but on the restoration, the 850 restoration of the degraded riverfront area, you didn't have any proposed shrubs or trees, anything? It was just a wild?
I don't know, wasn't there some protocol on the plans originally to restore that? I thought there was.
There was, but it didn't include any shrubs or trees.
Right, that's what she's saying.
Yeah. Well, if you want to propose something, or you want us to be consistent with the other area, we're happy to do it.
So I was proposing to have to plant clumps of 3, which is kind of similar to what you have down in the 25-foot area, clumps of 3 every 10 feet on center and 2 trees.
Yeah, we can do that. There is I don't know if you've been noticed, but there's a clump of trees there, 3 trees that are being strangled by the vines.
In that degraded riverfront area you're going to restore?
Yeah, in that area. So we've asked DEP for their policy on how to remove that, and we're waiting for them to give us their blessings on that. So, but we might have a bigger area there, is what I'm trying to say, to plant. Right now, there are three trees there that are being swallowed by the vines, and we can't take the risk of them falling on a house after the houses are built, so we'd never be able to get to them. But, so I would be asking you to go out
So
and,
those are in the degraded area, or it's left or right of the degraded area? Somewhere in there. I know you had talked about some.
It's hard to say, but I just go by where the silt fence, where the fence is, the erosion control, it goes around those trees, so I don't, it's in the riverfront area. I don't know that it's in the degraded.
I know you had talked about some trees you were worried that would fall. So just to go down the list, the stormwater management system, I think that's been pretty well vetted by the town engineer and everybody, so I don't really have any further discussions on that. I would like the operation and maintenance plan to be posted on site somewhere. I don't know if there's gonna be a management
No.
building or
We're not,
management.
well, we were gonna use the existing house, but I decided not to, but there might be a little place there for like an office that will
Is there gonna be a management company
management company.
or HOA or?
There will be eventually an HOA, yeah. But that won't happen until the development is done, right? So,
But I think you're talking, Landis, about posting it long-term on the site, so there wouldn't be a place to do that.
Yeah, I understand that.
They're all, yeah, so it would just be the HOA would get a copy of the maintenance plan.
Well, in addition, we often have the O&M attached to the order of conditions, so at least it's recorded.
Sure.
And that the responsible party's name and contact information for the stormwater management system shall be provided to the commission with the request for the certificate of compliance. This information shall be updated as it changes. That would be a recommended condition if the commission votes this. So it's also a land disturbance permit, so the as-built plan, and this is the language actually from the regulations, the permittee shall submit an as-built plan stamped by professional engineer prior to post-construction discharge of the stormwater for approval by the Conservation Commission and the town engineer, the as-built drawing must depict all on-site controls, both structural and non-structural, designed to manage stormwater associated with the completed site, elevations of the structural and non-structural components, verify basin, soil profile, and ability to drain as designed. So that's actually in the regulations for the stormwater management bylaw, so that would be a condition as well. Sediments are required to be managed to stay on site. Temporary sediment basin. So I know you already have this in place, that's why this is awkward, because it's
No, but
already
you
done.
gotta put it in anyway.
Temporary sediment basins shall be used to catch construction period stormwater to prevent discharge to street or wetlands, and this was an issue actually, the week that we did the inspection. There was some erosion control, there was some sedimentation occurring to the wetlands, and we talked in the site, and Nick Manis and me and Peter, the DEP guy, came up with a scenario which has been put into place, but that should be ongoing as necessary, it's not one and done. The track pads shall be maintained, stormwater management system of this, so this, I would just put in the land disturbance permit that the stormwater management system was reviewed under the notice of intent.
Okay. Bailey, any questions or comments?
Yes, I would like to agree with Landis in the request for 2.5 caliper trees in the restoration area. On the plan, sub-C, and maybe this isn't all-inclusive, but it says that proposed work ensure that the erosion control barrier is in place and functional. And you commented that you don't have one for the basin because it's already got the grass. So I'm a little confused with the timing of that.
Two different barriers.
Two different barriers?
One is before you start construction, you put the erosion control in, the silt fence and sock, which is in place. And that's what Landis was referring to. We need to do some repairs to it recently. The other erosion control was suggested that we put at the top of the basin to prevent any soil going where, into the wetlands or
Into the basin.
Into
The basin, as well as to be the limit of work from
So-
that point on, because you're going to be putting in a infiltration system and foundations.
Right, so as I mentioned, the basin is completely, the berm is completely grassed. I mean, we're gonna need to be cutting it shortly. So I don't think it's a good idea to go on top of the berm and dig in a siltation fence to do what we're talking about. But the way the basin is built and the way the rest of the site is that the berm of the basin is like 2 or 3 feet higher than the existing site right now. So there's no threat of water from the site going into the basin unless we let it in. And we're not gonna let it in until we have pipes in the ground and that sort of thing. So right now, we have temporary basins in the places that were recommended. And we have a basin that is fully grassed. We have restoration plants that have already been planted on the backside. So it just doesn't make sense for me to go in there and tear up the grass to put this erosion control fence there. That's all I'm saying, so.
Sure. Is there any other kind of, like Landis saying, there's a limit of work, is there anything that you could put there to ensure when construction starts, they don't go into that basin area?
Well, we shouldn't, once the restoration has taken place and the basin is, there shouldn't be any activity beyond the basin, between the basin and the wetland.
Right, but I'm talking about protecting the basin when you're doing construction of the properties and the
So the
houses.
basin will need to be completed. Right now, it's a sand bottom, and there'll be other work that will have to be done in the basin. It's a temporary bottom right now, so it's not in its final form.
So when it's final,
When it's final, then that will be when the structures are all in and water is actually entering the basin.
So it's gonna be an open construction site between the houses and the basin?
Well, when you say open construction, it's not at the same elevation, so.
Sure, but,
So you have, this is the top of the berm, and then that's the ground before you get to the basin. So any water that's on the site is being stopped by the berm.
yeah, but I'm also talking about like tractors or
No, this-
bulldozers, things that just might run into it.
No.
Okay, final comment, you also brought up, some trees that are in the degraded area to be restored that are being overrun by vines. Can you
Well,
just cut the vines?
Excuse me?
Can you cut the vines?
Well, these trees are, I don't know, 25, 30 feet high, and the vines are all the way up to the top, so.
Yep.
What would you do? I don't know how you would do it. I mean, Landis would have a better idea than me, but,
Well, I have a great idea.
What's
It's a stump and vine killer that you cut and then you paint on them, and then it kills the roots, and then the tops die,
I don't.
and then trees live.
So before, when we started this site, I don't want to go back in history, but, there was a lot of trees in this whole site that were swallowed up by the vines. And,
That you had to take down,
no, they fell down. They died
right, because
So-
of the vines.
because of the vines. So I'm not waiting for the vines to kill the trees that fall on a house that's there.
Right, I'm asking you to take care of the vines so they don't kill the trees and fall
I
on the
don't know,
house.
I don't know that, Landis, do you have any suggestions?
It's possible, it happens, yep.
Well, right now, it's not in degraded area, it's in, I believe it's in non-degraded riverfront area.
Okay.
Now,
It's inside the limit of work, though.
it's inside the limit of work.
What kind of trees are they?
They're junk trees, they're, I don't know what they call, ashes, or,
Probably,
There are a lot of ash trees in that area,
Yeah.
and were you planning to remove those trees to prevent a problem after the buildings are made so they don't fall?
it's a proactive rather than a reactive approach.
As I recall, a number of those trees, some were dead,
Yeah,
some
they
were
fall,
not.
every storm, there's trees that are falling down
Yeah.
there, so,
What's the timing of when you're starting to build?
excuse me?
What's the timing of when you're going to start to build?
I'd say we probably would look at doing some foundations in the next 60 or 90 days.
And when do you anticipate all the houses being completely built?
Oh, I don't know, couple.
2 years?
2 years.
So I think that's plenty of time to try and eradicate the vines, to then see if the trees would survive.
I
Unfortunately.
think the trees are in the area of construction, though.
Unfortunately, the trees are in the area where the first houses are gonna be built, so,
So you have to take the trees down to build the houses.
no. I'm taking the trees down to avoid a problem later on.
Right, a problem later on that could be avoided if you do something potentially about the problem today.
I'm not gonna argue with you, it doesn't seem like you're in favor of it, so
I like trees. I don't like people cutting down trees.
I would suggest that I don't know if you've been on the site or not, but why don't you come down, take a look at the trees yourself, and then we'll talk about whether you think your method is gonna work. I don't think it's gonna work, because you can tell that the trees are dead. The only thing that's green on them are the vines,
Are the trees in the area where you're building the house?
right and back.
Are they inside the
No,
hay
they
bales?
mustn't be if they're in the non-degraded riverfront
Yeah,
area,
non-degraded riverfront.
in the work area.
Oh, they're not inside the hay, okay.
They're behind the houses that are being built.
But
They're
then-
not in the work area.
Thank you. I thought they were in the work area.
You should come down to the site too and take a look yourself.
Anyways, I think we should move on from this personally, but
I think you did say you were waiting to hear from DEP on this issue,
Yeah, well,
about
yes.
what are you waiting to hear from them about?
Well, I've sent them, when he did his first site walk with me, I pointed out trees, I put a X on the trees that I thought, there are many, many more inside,
it was actually the second site visit.
excuse me?
I believe it was the second site visit,
Yeah, could've-
which was to review the erosion control that you had put in and
Right,
didn't
but
know
he-
there was other things that were going to be discussed.
So if you go to the site, which you can drive in and look, you look to the right, you'll see, I don't know, half a dozen or a dozen dead trees already that I've marked, that I've asked permission to go into the non-degraded riverfront area to take the trees down.
Okay, so
Every storm-
you requested that from DEP?
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm only simply, I've asked Landis, copied Landis, and I've asked Landis to take a look at it too. And, you know, it's easy for someone to sit here and say, oh, can you do this, can you do that, and then
Well,
we have to pay the price.
Hey,
Wait a minute,
Lou,
let him finish.
I mean,
Let him
she's a
finish.
commissioner who has valid questions
Right.
of what you're doing, so
Right.
let's just end it there and move on.
Why do everybody have to interrupt me? I don't understand.
Landis,
Christ.
if the trees were ash trees and they're dying, ash trees in eastern Massachusetts are dying from a disease caused by some bugs. And there's no beating them because there's no antidote for this disease at the present time, anyway. And I would say that in the next 10 years, there will be no ash trees anywhere east of, west of, or so. So I don't know what's going to happen further west, but this area, ash trees are dying from this disease caused by some kind of a beetle.
It's an ash borer. Okay. Anything else, Bailey?
Yes, do we know if the vines are an invasive species, and do you have an invasive species eradication plan for the site?
I'm not doing anything for invasive species.
Noted, thank you.
Okay. Doug?
Looking at the details of the plan on supplement C, I see there's a lot of very large boulders, and one of them is located right in the driveway of Unit 9. So I assume you're gonna have to relocate that boulder somewhere?
I don't know that there's any boulders on the site.
The big rock, there's one big
It's a
boulder.
15-foot rock. It's labeled as a rock.
Oh, yeah, well, that, originally there, that was in non-degraded riverfront at the beginning, okay? So now that we're using that area as what are we calling that?
Disturbance?
Disturbed riverfront area. So what will happen with that rock generally would be like a hammer would just bang it and break it up. And it is a fairly large rock, I don't know if you've been there, so,
It looks 15 feet
Oh, it's huge.
based on
Huge.
the
it's a big rock, yeah,
scale here.
yeah. We'd have to pop it and remove it.
So you're gonna pop half of it?
Good.
Depends on how it breaks. I mean, it'd probably break in quarters or whatever.
Half of it's in the area that you're
Unless you
wanting
wanna
to
keep
use,
it-
and the other half's not.
So if you want to keep it in the riverfront area, we're happy to keep it there.
Push it over.
If not, we would remove it, and then you wouldn't have any big rock there.
You could probably push it over, right?
Oh, I don't know.
And leave it there. Only gotta push it about 10 feet.
I know, it depends on the trees that are around it.
It's right in the middle of the driveway.
And you don't know how deep it goes.
It looks like it blocks the whole driveway.
It's not
Oh,
in the
it's not in the driveway.
It's not in the driveway,
It's on the
in
left
lawn.
side of the house.
On Unit 9?
11.
I'm looking at
11.
Unit 9.
It's on the left side of the house.
Unit 9's way over here.
9 doesn't have, oh, the
Yeah.
front
Yeah.
rock, you mean?
There's a rock right in the driveway
Oh, I
of
see
Unit
where you're
9.
Well,
talking
that
about
rock's
that.
gonna be, yeah, that's gone already. They've already cleared that area,
It's gone.
yeah.
All right.
Different rock, who knew?
I just wondered if it was going to get pushed into the
We
infiltration
have
system.
That's
a
gone.
large pile, a stockpile of material that's gonna be broken up and crushed and reused on site.
All right.
Anything else, Doug?
No, that's it.
Media?
I also endorse Landis's recommendation about the trees, the 2.5 caliber trees, so 2.5, so, I would agree with that. No other comments.
Al?
I have a question. Unit 15 in the house part, there's a strange shape there. What's that? I don't find it anywhere else. Like a staple.
Oh, you know what, that's the back of the existing house underneath it.
That's the
That's the-
perimeter of the existing house.
That's the bulkhead to the old house.
Okay, okay.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
I just wonder what it was.
Yeah, it's kind of behind that house,
No other questions?
Okay.
like a staple.
Betsy?
Does look like a
So I think we're waiting for a letter from DEP after their site visit very recently, right? It hasn't been received yet.
Excuse me,
So we're awaiting DEP, a response from them, I
on,
think. On the new degraded riverfront area, I think.
well, my understanding is that they'll just issue an amended order. When that'll come, you're not gonna get that, like, it's not imminent. So, they eventually will write that into the order, they're not gonna send a letter.
They'll make a determination if
Yeah.
it's it can be amended to the existing SOC, or if it requires filing a new notice of intent. Or
I understand,
It could be
yeah. It could be,
either
but I've
or.
spoken to them, and I don't think that's the direction that they're
And
headed
just to
in.
be clear, that, it's not just the degraded riverfront area, it's the new site plan that you're asking to be amended.
Correct, correct.
So we are waiting for that.
Well,
They have
we
not
are, but
made-
with regard to the degraded riverfront area, you know, I think I've mentioned this 2 or 3 times, the last couple of times, we're actually at a standstill on that particular area, and we'd appreciate it if the board would make a decision, and we can move on, because right now, we've got everything set, nice and planted, and that's the only area that's not completed. So, and it seemed to me that the commission was anxious to get this buffer zone done, and we're working against that right now.
Well, I think we have, depending what DEP comes up with, then it could affect what is, I think it's appropriate for us to wait till DEP makes their decision.
Can I just say that based on my conversation earlier today, it's not likely that you're gonna see that within the next 30 or 60 days. So if you wanna hold off 60 days, it's really kind of unfair to us. I mean, we are operating under the bylaw here, so the decision of this hearing is based on your jurisdiction, not the superseding order, so I don't know why you're tying the two together.
Is that your impression, Landis? It's gonna be 30 to 60 days before?
Not having a conversation with DEP.
He said that they're swamped, everybody is doing their construction, and they've got short staff. I don't wanna give you all the excuses, I said, don't take any more vacations. So,
Oh, well, that's, we have taken that position. We need to know what their
so
review comes up with for an answer that could affect, and may affect what we wind up with.
So what are we gonna do, just continue this like infinitum?
Until we get a response from DEP, yeah, I think
That's really unfair.
the other, issue is, and I think,
forward without a determination from them either, can we?
Under the bylaw, we can. I'm not worried about DEP. So, I mean, theoretically, it's the applicant that has to request the continuance, so I'm not really inclined to, I want a decision. You know, either you are, or you're, you know, either you're agreeing to it, or you're not, and if you're not, then we'll we have other alternatives to pursue, and we might as well get on with it.
Okay.
It's clearly degraded area, so I don't understand the dilemma here.
Well, it's clearly degraded from your standpoint. I don't know that that's
Listen,
a...
they've been out there 3 times now, DEP. Landis has been out there, Betsy's been out
I
there.
really couldn't tell when I was out there, honestly, Lou, because there was so
So
much
much
herbaceous
vegetation, right?
layer there that it was really hard to see anything, and I did ask for some kind of documentation that nothing had changed in between 2021 when the whole site was cleared, and currently when all of a sudden you're bringing up this additional degraded riverfront
Like
area.
a topographical survey of that immediate area, right? To compare and contrast the.
So let me understand this.
In addition, so what you're asking for is that there's additional degraded riverfront area in the Trapple Brook riverfront, and you want to, you want to fix that and then use that square footage to develop more non-degraded riverfront area in the Pickerel Brook. So there are
Correct.
2 riverfront areas for 1, so
Correct.
I think
it's taking away
Listen,
non-degraded riverfront area from Pickerel Brook. So I was interested to see how DEP would.
we
So-
spent a
so
lot
get-
of
let me
time...
under- let me-
wait a minute, we spent a lot of time and trying to come up with what was degraded, what wasn't. And this particular area that you're now bringing up was not brought up at all at that time. So it's only
Unfortunately.
later information that you have presented said, well, it's added riverfront, degraded riverfront. All that time we had spent prior and looking at the site and with your botanist and with, we had a third-party review. So that was the time to bring it up when it could have been observed. Today, it's not easy, if at all practical, to determine whether it is or isn't.
well,
So I think you had your opportunity way back when to determine what areas were degraded and what weren't.
so let me ask the question then, okay? So is the discretion of this commission, is it dependent upon what DEP makes their ruling, or are you making an independent decision? Because it doesn't make sense that you'd be waiting for DEP's comments like you're gonna, it's either degraded or isn't.
Well, DEP they're in a position to make that decision on that area, which I think at this point, I would say that it's not degraded.
The reason why we have a superseding order, if you really want to go back to the nuts and bolts here, is because you hired a third party. The third party didn't agree that it was degraded, and we had to go to DEP to get an arbiter. And they ruled that it was degraded, okay? So now, you're trying to say that because DEP is gonna say that it's degraded, you're not gonna agree with them.
I thought it was appealed because of the fact of removal of all the
That was that was part of it too, but
Which one was
degraded
which?
area, if you remember correctly, the degraded area was the reason why we appealed, because Beta said that it wasn't degraded because there's vegetation growing there. So now you're saying the same thing. You couldn't really tell if it was degraded because there was so much vegetation there, when we've had somebody who's.
No, it's not the same. Don't use my words to satisfy where you're going, please,
It's another
because it's
interruption.
not.
So basically, at this point, we're gonna wait till we hear what DEP's decision on this new request for degraded area.
What, is that gonna make a difference to the commission? If they say it's degraded, are you gonna agree with them?
At our last meeting, we said that that's pretty much what we're gonna do. We're gonna get a second opinion
Okay,
from
so-
DEP.
So,
That's why
so
we
you're
did it.
saying tonight that DEP rules that it's degraded and agrees with the modification to the plan, you're gonna agree to it? Is that what you're saying?
We'll see what they're,
You can't even make that decision.
well, no, I'm not, we'll see what their decision is, and we'll evaluate at that time.
Oh, my
Okay.
God, that is so pathetic. Seriously, come on. You're trying to tell me that you're gonna wait for DEP to make a decision, and then you're gonna decide whether or not you wanna go with them or not?
What difference does it make? We said we're gonna wait till we hear DEP's decision.
It makes a difference whether or not I go to court or not. That's what it makes a
Court for
decision.
what?
Well, if I don't like your decision, then I'll just appeal it to wherever I gotta go.
Okay, which you have that right to
I know I
appeal our
do, but
decision.
you're not being fair.
That's your opinion.
You're gonna wait for DEP to make a decision, and then you're gonna decide whether you like it or not. You think that's fair?
That's not what I said.
No, it's not what
Yeah.
you said.
That's not what I said.
What did you say?
So
Repeat
we're
it.
waiting for DEP's decision.
Okay, and
And
then
then
what?
then we will evaluate and make our decision. All right?
So, I don't understand why you can't do it now.
Because we haven't had DEP's decision.
This doesn't make any sense. It's ridiculous. So, all right, so you wanna continue this out, what, 60 days, 90 days, how long?
Whatever, if you can leave it as, we need to have it on an agenda.
Well, no,
So,
we continue it out.
so we
Tell
can
me,
continue, and if we don't get decision, we continue it to the next meeting.
Why don't you just continue it to a date at this point?
yeah, no, continue, what, tell me,
Luke, can you do me a favor? Please talk in a civil voice, please. so
I'm
we can
trying.
Work this out. We're all trying to talk in civil
Okay.
voices. I would appreciate it.
just try to be fair to the applicant.
If you could
once.
just talk in a civil voice. I know we're disagreeing, but we should all be talking in civil voices.
Fine,
Thank you.
tell me what you want.
I would suggest that
Just
we,
continue to the
we
26th.
continued, well, 26 is 2 weeks. I would think that that's probably not gonna, I would suggest that July
But if
10th.
something happens, then if he's asking
Well, we can do it that way.
fair, then
What?
continue
Yeah.
to the 26th,
You can
and
do
perhaps
that.
something will happen in between then and now.
Yeah.
Tell you, why don't we just treat this like one of my enforcement orders? Just keep it on the agenda until,
Hey, Lou.
until it's
Lou,
resolved.
Need
again,
to-
we're trying
this
to
is a
work
public
out in a
hearing.
civil way,
It's a
please.
public hearing, it needs to be on with a specific time. So if it's all right with you, we'll put it on for June 26th is our next meeting, and what do we have?
And it will have been 4 weeks since the DEP person came to look at it,
Oh.
so.
I know, Betsy, but you don't,
I would say
That's
that
how we
you're
were
on
gonna
at
do it.
7:30, so we'd make it at 7:45.
if we don't have a letter, obviously, I'm not coming to the meeting, so you can,
Well,
Yes,
you're on,
you're
you're
right.
already on at 7:30.
oh, I am? Oh, my God,
forward.
I can't wait.
So we'll make it at 7:45.
Sure.
Oh, someone make a motion to continue this hearing until 7:45 on June 26th?
Second.
We'll probably have foundations in the ground by the time that decision.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. 600.
Thank you.
Okay.
To 7:45?
7:45 on June 26th.
So the representative for the Bryn Mawr project has been waiting very patiently for the extension request.
Oh,
So if you would take that up next, I'm sure
can
she
do
would
that.
appreciate it. So this is the 55 and older AQB off of Bremnar and West Street, and it's been ongoing for quite a while. Started before COVID, and it got set back because of COVID and other situations. Did an amendment with both us and I believe the planning board. Introduce yourself. It was on the agenda from the last hearing. It's not on the agenda, but it is in my conservation agent report. I asked the commission hold off to this meeting because I wanted to do a site visit. I did go out and do a site visit with their site person, and we walked the whole entire site, and there was a couple of areas where the erosion control needed to be repaired or boosted, and he did send a couple pictures of the bad areas that were complete. So they are moving forward in maintaining the erosion control, it's compost sock, the silt fence, and he showed me this new silt fence that they now have purchased that has actually a wire mesh behind it, so it kind of stays in place a little better because it has a stiff wire mesh built into it, so I thought that was good.
So it's not just plastic, it's like a,
Yeah, it doesn't, so with the black silt fence, it tends to like sag and fall and
Yeah.
deers jump over it, but this has kind of a meshy
stiffens it up.
wire
Yeah.
to it, so it's a little firmer. But so I was satisfied enough to, recommend the 1-year extension. They just really need to keep up on reviewing and repairing erosion control as they go along.
Someone make that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
600.
Thank you.
Good enough, thank you. Hope you enjoyed your evening.
Entertaining.
I have 3 young daughters at home, so this was actually hard.
You got something to sign?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
We could go
remember those-
longer if you'd
I
like.
remember those days. Yeah. Except when I went home and there was like mayhem and chaos, but.
mayhem and chaos.
Yes, mayhem and chaos.
Are those your kids' names?
Mayhem, chaos.
What's the other one name?
Thank you. Thank you. No, that was just the other half's name. Here, actually, I can give you 2.
There are 2 of these, okay.
Oops, sorry.
So there's 2 other extensions.
Yeah. Rustic Road.
Rustic Road, 100 Rustic Road, that was a pool and some restoration of wetlands buffer area that had been damaged during construction. They're still working on the project. They've had some setbacks due to health and other reasons, and they're asking for another 1-year extension on that.
Okay, someone make that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
600.
There's just one.
One of these.
And then the other one is Eastover Road, that's off of East Street, kind of across from Pennington Place. That's another one that's, there are some items, the stormwater and the wall and some other items, and they've been in litigation with a developer, and that's kind of ongoing. They think they're near a conclusion, but they do need an extension.
Someone make that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. 600.
Is the developer someone we know? From out of town or something? Like, have they disappeared or something?
It's a really long
This
story.
thing's been going on a long time.
It has
right?
been going on.
It has, I just wonder if they just kind of left.
It's complicated.
Yeah. Okay.
Saw that movie.
Heard that before. What else we got here?
The Beaver.
So the emergency certificate, just an update, this is the National Grid right-of-way near Spring Valley Road and Washington Street, that the commission issued an emergency certificate for work to construct a beaver decoy dam in front of the culvert. The beavers were damming the bridge, a box culvert, and causing the wetlands to rise and concern to some residents in the area. So they built the decoy dam, which is about maybe 10, 15 feet away from the culvert, and the beavers have constructed along the dam. And so I went out there last week, I think it was, and I could see where it was, and it just needs to be monitored. They didn't think the beavers were necessarily gonna go up more, they might go out more, but they might not, they're not necessarily gonna go up more. And then we went to the residents that was concerned to see where the level of the wetlands in his backyard is, so that we had to kind of gauge where the dam is now and where the water is. It's definitely a fair distance from the house at this point, and there's a good grade that goes up to the house, so we didn't feel it was gonna be moving up fast. But basically what conversation I had with Beaver Solution is that, it's not a one and done, it's something that needs to be monitored, and they realize that too. It's a Eversource right away, so Eversource is paying them, so it's really up to Eversource to continue. And if they don't, then I would recommend the commission, get on Eversource's case to continue monitoring it and doing something about it. The beavers, I guess what they were saying is, it's probably a offspring of other beavers, and since we have a beaver problem down near Washington Street in the DPW yard, it could have been their offspring. They tend to not go too far from their parents and establish their own home. There's been a lot of activity in south of Boston with beaver activity, less out western Mass apparently, more down towards this way. It's really hard because the next step would be to trap them and remove them, but that's not gonna guarantee anything because another pair could just move right in, because once they're there, they keep on coming, new pairs.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you have to just kind of manage it.
Oh,
It
okay.
doesn't
Is this
come
the
up
area
all-
where we've had issues before?
No, no, this is a different area.
Okay.
This is a different area. This is office, foliage and spring,
We got Spring Valley
Valley.
Road.
Yeah.
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 We've been having problems there since the 90s.
That's what, it's the same area?
Yeah.
That area, because I know there was a problem more off of Lincoln Road up that area.
Now, this area here, I had a problem with it
Yeah.
before you.
So in the last 20 years, I haven't heard of that, of the
Yeah,
problem.
not in the last 20
Mhm.
years.
I don't know, it's ongoing, so once they've been there, they come back.
They like it.
Yeah, they don't like, they
So
like it.
trapping isn't,
Well, that's the thing, if they trap them, they can euthanize them, and that doesn't guarantee another pair is gonna move into their
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
new
The-
house.
Population has been expanding in eastern Mass.
Yeah.
do they have any
Whatever the ben-
natural
Whatever they
predators?
find is so good here.
No,
Well, if a coyote gets a hold of one,
right,
but they're
right.
pretty wily about it. They're pretty sneaky about it.
Wow.
They're intelligent animals.
Okay, so we need to vote anything on that?
Nope,
Okay.
nothing on the appeal, Pinnacle appeal. There was a new application submitted with the ZBA for a 40A project, on the site. So there's now a 40B project
Wait, hey,
and a 40A. 40A is just regular zoning.
Oh, yeah.
okay.
I didn't know it had a special name.
Huh.
Seems to be the way things are operated now. File both. We And also I had, using the money that gets budgeted now every year, and Jim Johnson and town meeting and everyone's been good about including, approving a little money in the conservation budget for maintenance. First it was like 500, then it went to 1,000, and now it's 1,500. So I did have a couple turtle crossing signs made that we're gonna put on Robbins Road and by Clark's Pond, where people have been observing, you know, turtles getting squished. So hopefully that'll, might stop that, or we'll see. And then I had a couple of signs made up for no dumping on Concom land, and also just no dumping on any land.
Mm.
So those should go up soon.
You gonna ask DPW to put them up?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he's ready, I just gotta show him exactly where. Gonna do that.
Somebody was asking me about the trail down to New Pond, what the status is of that whole thing.
There's been some work on the trail itself down to the stream,
Mhm.
which then becomes that Neposset Land Holdings property. So we've got to have get together with them and have a meeting and determine what size, need to put a boardwalk over the stream.
Okay.
So,
The entrance area is gonna be done.
I don't know what the
Probably-
deal, what's going on with
Probably in
that.
the fall, so it seems like in the fall or early winter, when DPW is not doing other things in the town, but
Okay.
they're, yeah.
Busy now.
Okay.
I want to get together with, and mark off the right-of-way coming down North Street on the west side. So make sure we are not encroaching on the field that belongs to New England Forestry. I'm getting together with somebody, I don't know, was it Chris that I think did something originally there? Determined there's a 50-foot right-of-way.
Yeah, I think it was Chris.
So I think if we get together with him and just confirm that we have that, there's an area there that we can get a path that's on town property.
Okay. Yep.
That's progressing, there's interest in getting that. Cool.
All right.
All right, so are we moving to adjourn?
Anybody have anything else? Okay,
I move we adjourn.
we're gonna wait till, are we ready? Okay, so we'll make a motion to adjourn.
I move.
We got a second?
Second.
Okay,
All in
and
favor?
everybody in favor?
Yep.
Okay.
Aye, aye, aye.